What's up, everybody, and happy Friday. I am the Counselor of Cash, and Coach is on the other side of the pond doing big things. So, like I said yesterday, I am the captain now just for a couple more days. Really excited about Big Pick Energy Friday. Before we bring in the stars of the show, let's see how we did last night. Not great. We had a couple guys leaning on Isaiah Pacheco, which frankly made a lot of sense, and he didn't really pay off. He was close. We got his combo yards because Sniper hit that over 90.5. I hit my first quarter bet, AB 2 for 4, and AB, of course, gave you the first touchdown score with Kadarius Toney, but we can do better, and we'll probably do better today. Speaking of doing better, we've got a show at 4 o'clock today. Don't forget about that. It's the Player Prop Show. I used to be on this show. An excellent show. EC is going to be hosting, so you're not going to want to miss that. But, of course, Uncle Dave, Proppy, they are going to be on this show as well. I honestly think when it comes to the NFL, the sides and the totals are so efficient that you really need to get into this player prop market, and this is the show for you. So make sure you tune in at 4 o'clock. But enough about that. We need to pep up your Friday, and the only way we can do that is bringing in the stars of the show for none other than Big Pick Energy Friday. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Oh, wow. We got two snipers. I've got the shimmy. And hey, can I ask everybody
what are you doing?
Everybody out in the audience.
That's not you. You don't do that.
Everybody out in the audience. Does anybody need a chip me up? Chip?
Good morning, Counselor. Good morning, Sniper. Good morning, Buckets. Good morning, Snake. Good morning, Early Edge fam. Oh, you thought that we were going to be toned down just because Coach ain't here? No. Counselor came to me and he said, I need to speak with my client. Took me off to the side. We had a sidebar for those of you who are not in the lingo. And he said, we need even more. So we're giving you even more. Fired up to get the weekend started off with y'all.
Sidebar. I love that. It brings me back to my attorney days. Practiced law for 13 years. I was a trial attorney. There was nothing more satisfying than saying permission to approach for a sidebar. I got to tell you, because the jury's sitting there. They're all curious. They're like, what do they need to talk about? Opposing counsel comes up. You have a little huddle. You get out of the huddle. The judge announces something important. Loving the lawyer lingo. Sniper, before we get into Fade or Follow, let me ask you, because you've been red hot fire in baseball, in MLB, and I know you have an MLB future to give us later in the show, but do you have any reaction to, I know there's a lot of talk about like the layoff, and I know we addressed this a little bit, but can you just react again? Because we're seeing a lot of, like, I see it all over Twitter, like all of the 100-win teams, they're out. Like, give us a quick Sniper reaction to how you think this is all playing out.
I just don't think that we should have days off anymore. Apparently everybody forgets how to play baseball if they take a few days off. And the humanity. So let's see. The Rays won 99 games and they lost in the first round to the Rangers and they looked awful. They had the same number of days off as the Rangers. I went through the Braves schedule and I found 10 different times this year, 10 where they lost 3 out of 4, 10. Those were not after days off. It wasn't because they were cold. Sometimes that just happens in baseball. And by the way, the Phillies are much better than the record. Remember, Bryce Harper was hurt to start the season. Ranger Suarez was hurt to start the season. Trey Turner didn't start hitting in August. They're much better than their 90 wins right now. Sometimes you just get beat, and we don't have to change the format just because a good team loses.
All right. I like that take. The Orioles met a red-hot Texas Rangers team. Dodgers, not a great playoff team as of late. Of course, they won a World Series, but a lot of teams have their number in the playoffs. Kershaw's number specifically. Buckets, I don't want to leave you out before we bring in Fade or Follow. How you doing on BPE Friday?
I am doing about as well as I can on BPE Friday, considering I had to sit through and lose all of my Euro bets yesterday, Sia. I'm a bit frustrated because I lost every soccer bet I touched yesterday, and the one football bet I gave out, the under 47 points because Venus was in retrograde, hit, which is awesome, but I'm doubting my own capping skills a little bit, considering I looked it up after the fact. Venus wasn't even in retrograde, so I lied to everyone on that, and it still hit, so we're figuring it out as we go here.
You got to get your astrology up. All right, let's go to Fade or Follow. Let's see what we have here. What's really interesting, those of you that don't follow a lot of college football, you probably think, well, all the exciting games are on Saturday, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. To the extent there are games, they're kind of low key. I think every Colorado Buffalo game is like high key, if you will. Like I love the fact that this is on a Friday, even though they're playing lowly Stanford. Chip, I'm going to you, and then I'll give you my thoughts. I mean, we've got Colorado tonight, 11.5-point spread here. It seems pretty high, but then again, Stanford seems pretty bad. They've got some injuries too. How are you looking at this game?
Yeah, so if you're going to play Stanford, I would say play it in the first half, because we remember what happened in the first half against Oregon. It was only 14-6. They lose 42-6. We've seen Stanford throughout this season. They have a strong start in basically every game but USC when they got absolutely throttled, but they do not have the players. They do not have the dudes. They do not have the depth to be able to handle that. So if you're looking at Stanford, I would not take them for the full game. I would only take Stanford for the first half. For the full game, I think that I'll probably be targeting a Colorado team total over as the best play to be able to get there, because you got to look at the Buffs at this point in the season. You got an off week coming up next week, kind of a pour it out mode where you want to send them into that off week with a lot of confidence, which, by the way, one win here against Stanford improves Colorado to 5-2. That is one game short of bowl eligibility.
Unbelievable. And I know they do have that bye next week, but Chip, correct me if I'm wrong, but it does look like Travis Hunter is back in this game, right?
So the word from Deion Sanders is that he doesn't want to have him be a liability because of his wind, or AKA his conditioning. So here's what I don't expect. I don't expect that we'll see Travis Hunter out there for 130 snaps like he was in those first two games. It's more of a economy of snaps for Travis Hunter as he gets back. Like internal organ injury, if the doctors say he's fine, then really it is making sure that he's got his legs under him. You don't want to push him too far. So it'll be opportunistic. I think we'll see him at wide receiver. I think we'll see him at cornerback. But again, more of those like red zone opportunities, maybe on both sides of the ball.
And Chip, I have one more question for you, because you brought up USC. And I don't know if you've already covered this on the Cover 3 podcast. Please let us know if you have. But real quick, Notre Dame, USC. I'm leaning towards Notre Dame. Am I crazy?
You're not crazy. And the one bit of player availability news that could entirely change USC's ability to go and win this game is whether or not Zachariah Branch, the freshman wide receiver who exploded in the first couple of weeks. It is undisclosed what exactly his issue is. Lincoln Riley only this week started to even mention it as an injury to some of those local reporters. They are trying to get him back, but it is still uncertain if he plays. And this is why I think it's a big deal. I do think that Notre Dame wants to play a low-scoring, low-possession game. Keep the ball out of Caleb Williams' hands as much as possible. Use your run game to do that. But Zach Branch is one of those cheat code easy button guys where Lincoln Riley, good offensive mind, he just has to dial up the one play. It's like, oh, and this is going to leave the track star wide open with 60 yards to go get a touchdown. 4 explosive plays for USC could get them the win. If Zach Branch is not in the lineup, it is much more difficult to get those 4 explosive plays.
All right. Absolutely love that. You can catch a lot more of that type of conversation on the Cover 3 podcast, or you just follow Chip at Chip_Patterson. All right, listen, we got another fade or follow, and it's the Sunday morning game. But before we get to that, and I'm going to have everybody involved in here, including Buckets. Before we get to that, let's hear a message from our partners.
We need the sports news anywhere.
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
Welcome back. All right, let's bring up the next fade or follow game here. This is a game and by the way, I do want to mention, I do agree with Chip on the team total. I do think Colorado is going to cover. It does feel like a suckerish bet. I got to imagine, the public is all over Colorado. Why wouldn't they be? Why wouldn't they be fading Stanford? So I still kind of like the -11.5, but I think I'd be going with the team total here. Here in this Sunday morning game, of course, this is across the pond where Coach is right now, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've got the Ravens. We've got the Titans. I've been big in Chip, or actually Sniper. I'm going to go to you first here. I've been pretty big on the Titans this year. They always overperform. They always have value in that sense. But I feel like they're kind of in a tough spot playing the Ravens. Yeah. Ravens coming off a horrific loss last week. The receivers were really bad. Lamar was really good. The receivers were really bad. But a lot of that was drops. And there's a lot of variance with those drops. Like I assume we're not going to have as many drops this week against a Titans secondary that's pretty bad. Do you have a play in this one?
Isn't that the story of Lamar's career at this point? Like, he was
Yeah.
great and he didn't get enough help from his teammates. It's like a one-man band so many times. I actually am going to follow the Titans here. I have a gut feeling that they can totally shut down the Ravens' run game, and I just don't love Lamar's weapons as much. I know that they're upgraded and everything, but just as you said last week, they looked terrible. A lot of gut feeling here for me. I think the Titans defense is going to shut down the Ravens. So I'm on the Titans.
All right. And Buckets, I got to ask you before we go to Chip and I give a quick take out, any astrology related facts that might relate to this Sunday morning Ravens Titans game?
I think we're going to keep astrology out of it this time, Sia. But what I am going to do is take my second favorite way to evaluate matches and just fade Sniper here. I'm going to be all over the Ravens. I love Ravens to win it. I love them on the spread. And specifically, I like Zay Flowers for the Ravens to get a lot of yards and a lot of receptions here.
Oh, Zay Flowers. Well, Chip, I can't really argue with that. I think that's a pretty good take against this Tennessee secondary. Do you have a play in this game or at least a lean?
Yeah, no, I'm a big Todd Monken guy. I think anybody that can turn Stetson Bennett into a national championship winning quarterback and a Heisman Trophy finalist certainly can coach up some offense. And early in the season, I thought that we were seeing that. Clearly, that has not been the case over the last couple of weeks. If maybe some wide receivers can pull down some balls in the end zone, we're having a different conversation. Let's say that on the long plane ride to London, Monken cooks up something special for this Tennessee Titans defense. I'm going to go Ravens. I'll lay the 4.
Yeah, I'm going to lay the 4 as well. It's an uncomfortable play for me because, again, I usually like to take the Titans in cases like this, especially with a 4-point spread here. But I think the Ravens are really going to fire on all cylinders coming off that just horrific loss to Pittsburgh last week, where they really played well for about 3.5 quarters. You know what this show needs? It needs a little bit of Jamie Foxx. You guys know this show is powered, of course, by BetMGM. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get $200 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10 and you will receive $200 instantly in bonus bets, regardless of your wager's outcome, with bonus code EDGE200. Jamie Foxx and I are boys. Does everybody know that? I've said it at least once. We played basketball together over at LA Fitness in Fort Lauderdale. I still have to tell that story, but now is not the time. Now is not the place because it's time to actually get to our picks. But before we do that, just one little last message from our partners.
Wake up to football highlights and news from around the world with the one and only Morning Footy team.
Rise and shine, football fans. Welcome to Morning Footy.
Start your all-day football craze with Morning Footy, part of the all-new Golazo Network.
All right, well, Buckets, we know that Morning Footy, it's a little too early for your liking on, of course, Golazo Network. But the Early Edge BPE, well, it starts at 10. So I assume you are ready to give a soccer pick.
I am ready. I woke up 15 minutes ago, Sia, so plenty of time to get ready for the 10 a.m. show. And I need everybody to listen here real quick because I love the Euro qualifiers as much as the next guy, but I got absolutely gutted by the Euros yesterday. And looking at the matches, it makes sense with the way that I bet. You guys know I love my BTTS, I love my overs, and I hate VAR. Well, yesterday in the 8 Euro qualifiers, we saw BTTS hit in 0 of the 8, under 2.5 goals hit in 6 of the 8, 3 red cards, and we saw VAR take away 9 goals in those matches. So for that reason, I'm going to be staying completely away from the Euro qualifiers and instead go to one of my favorite leagues still playing during the break, the Northern Irish Premiership. Of course, we all know I'm going to be talking about the matchup between the Carrick Rangers and Linfield FC, baby, because if you've never heard of Carrick Rangers, that's okay. The only thing you need to know is that Carrick Rangers in the Northern Ireland Premiership play exactly like German Bundesliga clubs do. So you can still get that Bundesliga fix even during the break here. Rangers in their last 10 games across all competitions have hit both teams to score in 9 out of those 10 matches. This is the kind of team that they could be up 3-0 or they could be down 3-0, and they are still pushing 110% foot on the gas because all they care about is scoring goals. They're playing Linfield FC, who is the top of the table right now, but it's a team that, again, even as the best team in this league, is averaging over 1 goal conceded per match. This is a team that is scoring almost 3 goals per match, but again, defense really isn't their biggest priority. These two teams played in the reverse fixture earlier this year, in which we saw a 3-3 draw at Linfield. So I'm expecting maybe not 6 goals, but the fact that we can get BTTS here at -110 is an absolute must bet for me this afternoon at 2:45. And a quick lean for those watching live if you do want some Euros action, take a look at France money line because it's plus odds against Netherlands, and I do not think it should be, considering just how many injuries Netherlands has right now. And if France wins this match, it locks them up to qualify out of this stage. So France money line could be a good shout there as well.
I absolutely love it. Love throwing in the lean there too, Buckets. By the way, there was somebody in the chat, forgive me, I think it was John Ruska, if I'm pronouncing that right. He had West Virginia money line, or he had West Virginia -3 yesterday. Can I tell you, I had that too. It wasn't an official play, but I actually live bet it when West Virginia was -2.5. I mean, it was 3 before the game started, but that was a brutal loss. And I got to tell you, Chip, you'll appreciate this. I also had Duke +2.5. It was a late live bet that I made 2 weeks ago against Notre Dame when they converted that 4th and 16. And then instead of just milking it and kicking the field goal, which I would have covered the 2.5, they break that 30-yard run. So live betting, fortunately, I didn't put any of those plays out, but live betting in college football, boy, can it be dangerous because these young kids can give up some big plays. Any reaction to that, Chip?
Were you watching? So Dana Holgorsen, for those who don't know, the Houston head coach, he was at West Virginia back in the day. He's been around football for a really long time, and it was knowledge that he was probably going to be on the hot seat if Houston didn't do well their first year in the Big 12. And the expectations based on the win total is that they would not. And after West Virginia hits that long touchdown, you look at his face, he had taken the headset off and he got a little teary-eyed. And I was like, man, Dana is looking up to the sky. This game is at home. He thinks that Neil Brown in West Virginia just got him fired. And the swing of emotions as the Hail Mary gets tipped right into the end zone for a game-winning Hail Mary touchdown for the Cougs. Listen, we know that Dana Holgorsen likes to play cards. You know, he fancies himself a little bit of a blackjack guy. Those are the kind of results that get you coming back to the table right there. That is why that man continues to show up time and time again for college football, because he went from like maybe fired on Friday morning to now all of a sudden maybe this Houston team has new life thanks to a Big 12 win.
So CID says West Virginia forgot to knock the ball down. I mean, the truth is a lot of those DBs were just short. Like a lot of the wide receivers for Houston were tall and they just couldn't, like, I think at least one or two of them was probably trying to knock it down. That's why you just put regardless of what side this person plays, maybe you put a couple receivers back there like the Patriots used to do with Gronk, and you make sure you get a guy that's taller than everybody else to knock it down. So I just think because it was a pretty easy catch after the tip. I mean, there were like 3 guys there that could have caught it. That was pretty brutal. All right, let's move on. I want to get to my pick really quick, and then we're going to get to Sniper and Chip's picks. I've got a 3-ball. I promised you all I'd have a golf pick today, and I have this. This actually doesn't tip off for lack of a better way to say it, tee off, until probably like 2:30 this afternoon. So you have plenty of time. I've got Ludwig Aberg. It's pronounced Oberg apparently, which is interesting. Plus 100 over Nikolai Højgaard and Carl Yuan. This is a play on Aberg because he's just so talented and he really hasn't slowed down since the Ryder Cup. You'd think he'd be tired or he'd be letting his foot off the gas. It's just simply not the case. And Nikolai Højgaard, I mean, he's okay, but he's not playing as well as Ludwig Aberg. Yesterday certainly didn't play as well as Ludwig Aberg. And then Carl Yuan was really terrible yesterday. He can flash here and there, but he is just not a consistent golfer at all. And he is not in the class of Aberg or Højgaard for that matter. So getting even money on Aberg here is just a pretty simple play for me. They're never guarantees, but really like this one at plus 100. That's my pick. All right, let's move on. Sniper, you've been chilling and you've got a couple of baseball picks here. Looks like you got a future. Well, it looks like you might have 2 futures here, actually, on 2 teams. I've said it before. I'll say it again, that are red hot fire, just like you. Let's talk about it.
Okay. Well, first of all, yesterday in the chat, I believe it was TJ that said it was his mother's birthday and he wanted her to get a shout out on the show. Happy birthday, TJ's mom. Belated. Sorry we didn't get to it yesterday. On to the plays. Obviously had to go to the futures market because we don't have any games today because all the series got over too early. That's the only thing that's unfortunate about the way that the playoffs have gone for me so far is that we've had teams eliminate teams too early and we didn't get that many. Well, no, we've gotten no do or die games. We've got no game 5s in the NL or ALDS. In the wild card series, we got no game 3s. Hopefully that changes moving forward. We'll get game 7s in both LCSs and the World Series. That would be amazing. Speaking of the World Series, I checked right after the game last night, so it's possible the line has moved, but on BetMGM, the Phillies were plus 200 to win the World Series, and that's who I've got right now. I've got the Phillies to win it all, to get it done this time around. Look, they are built for the playoffs. A lot of teams are regular season teams. We could say it about the Dodgers in a lot of their recent iterations that they were more of a regular season team than a postseason team. The Phillies are totally built for the playoffs with that power up and down the lineup. We saw it last night, 3-1. Every single run scored was a solo home run. The Phillies out-homered the Braves. They won. They hit 11 home runs in the 4 games in the series. Home runs move the needle in the postseason because against postseason pitching, it's a lot harder to string a lot of hits together. So you've got to have the long ball. The Phillies have that. You've got to have frontline starting pitching in the rotation. The Phillies have that with Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler. Ranger Suarez has looked really good in his starts as well. You've got to have power arms in the bullpen. The Phillies have those. Love the Phillies to win it all. On the AL side, I wanted to make a play there too. This one seems like a toss-up to me. I feel like it's going to go 7 games. I think it's interesting that the Rangers heading into the postseason, a lot of people thought their starting pitching is a big problem. Well, Jordan Montgomery has solidified his spot in the rotation. Nathan Eovaldi has thrown well twice, looking more like the Eovaldi that we saw in the first half of the season when he was one of the best pitchers in baseball. And Max Scherzer is ready to rejoin the rotation. Further, Andrew Heaney started game 1 against the Orioles. Dane Dunning piggybacked him. Now that is essentially your 4th starter. Rangers starting pitching looks good. Astros 39-42 at home in the regular season, 1-1 in the playoffs. They lost game 2 to the Twins. I think their vulnerability at home is going to be what bites them here. I've got the Rangers in 7. They are plus 115.
I like it. I mean, listen, I didn't expect this from the Rangers. I thought the Orioles were going to win that series, and I found out pretty quick that I was wrong even before that series was over. So I love that. And honestly, fading the Phillies right now, I did that in game 1 against the Marlins, and I learned my lesson real quick because game 2, I took the Phillies first 5 minus a half, and that hit very easily. When people say teams are built for the playoffs, a lot of it is just sort of narrative street, and a lot of it is just like actually true. And the Phillies, especially when you look at their pitchers, Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, these guys they're just so dominant in the playoffs. They really flip a switch somehow.
You know who the Phillies remind me of? The 2019 Nationals. Because they were very, very top heavy. Only a few good starting pitchers, only a few good position players, only a few bullpen arms they could count on. I remembered sitting with my colleagues in Houston and we were joking about it. We're like, man, there's like 8 to 10 dudes dragging this Nationals team across the finish line. But sometimes that's all you need in the playoffs. That's all you need. The Phillies are top heavy, but that's all you need.
Yeah, absolutely. And David talked earlier in the chat. He said, "Sniper knows baseball," and he not only delivers here and on SportsLine, but don't forget CBS Sports HQ. He's everywhere. And Sniper, I noticed they keep you on forever, right? You've got these long segments where you're just like on for like 15 minutes straight.
Yeah, I was on for 15, 20 after the game last night. Yeah.
Well, not just last night, pretty much all the time that you're on, and you're.
I know. I was just thinking of the most recent time.
Yeah, and so if you guys aren't watching him on HQ, you're just missing out on so much content beyond the picks you're getting on Early Edge. All right, well, listen, you know what it's time for. We already had our Chip Me Up at the beginning of the show, and now we get kind of an extra Chip Me Up because I see a pick for tonight, which is awesome. So we already talked about Colorado Stanford. We already talked about our leans there, but Chip, you've got a pick for tonight, and you've got a pick for Saturday. The floor, my friend, is yours.
So one of the biggest games in the American Athletic Conference, aka the AAC, aka your Friday night dose of action, is going to feature Tulane and Memphis. We're talking 2 of the top 3 teams offense, 2 of the top 3 teams defense in the conference rankings. But I think that this is a great place in the schedule where when you're going through your process, you need to understand the raw data and the opponent adjusted data. Because when you're looking at the raw data, these 2 teams look very similar. I just mentioned that they're right there at the top. But when you start to go a little bit deeper, you realize that Tulane's defense is much better when you put in opponent adjusted adjustments. And then you see that Memphis defense get a little bit worse. But I want to focus in on this Memphis team total because Tulane's defense, to me, is the best unit in this game. And you're seeing that 24.5, and you're like, Chip, what in the world are you thinking? This Memphis team is averaging 36.6 points per game. This Memphis team has not scored this few points once all season, 27 or more in every single game. Well, sometimes the number tells you everything that you need to know, and it's that this Memphis offense is taking advantage of bad defenses. It is running into the best defense that it has played, and in a game with big stakes, we're talking American Athletic Conference regular season championship type stakes, I think the game gets a little bit tighter. Tulane's defense leads the way. We go Memphis, team total under 24.5. Turn the page to Saturday, where we're going to go to North Carolina and Miami. And look, I don't want to have to bet on anything for Miami right now. I have no idea whether Mario Cristobal and this team is going to be so embarrassed that they're going to limp into Chapel Hill or come out with their hair on fire. So I'm going to go with the one thing that I know, and that's number 10 is going to be scoring tutties. That's right. Drake May has ascended. He is playing some of his best football of the season in the last 2 to 3 weeks. And now as that offense continues to get better and better and better, I think they're going to be able to light up Miami's cornerbacks. Miami's very, very good along the defensive front. But look, Texas A&M went and put 33 on this team. North Carolina can definitely get over 30.5. So we're going to Tar Heels, team total over 30.5.
Love it. Some team totals, a way to maybe, a lot of these games, they're really efficient when it comes to the sides and totals. So sometimes you get a little less efficiency when you get to the team totals, when you get to the props. So Chip, absolutely love that. All right, folks, let's bring up the recap screen and see what we've got today. I've got my 3-ball. It's Ludwig Aberg, otherwise known as Oberg, apparently, at plus 100 over Nikolai Højgaard and Carl Yuan. This starts in a few hours, so you still have time. This is a round 2 matchup. We've got buckets with the Carrick Rangers. Somebody called it the Carrot Rangers, which I thought was pretty funny. And Linfield FC, BTT has both teams to score at minus 110. The Sniper has Phillies to win the World Series at plus 200. And the Rangers to win the AL at plus 115. And then Chip Me Up Patterson, Memphis team total under 24.5 at minus 125. And UNC team total over 30.5 at minus 110. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope we kind of lifted you a little bit. We like to give you picks. We like to give you really good conversation. I know we did that, but we like to cheer you up as well. Get your Friday going. We also like to get your Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday going. So again, always come in here with positivity. We try to deliver it back to you. Always hit the like button, do those things for the show. But that is all the damage we can do today on BPE Friday. You know what's next, right? I never do this, right? But let's just try it again until I get it. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these tickets straight to the pay window for the Sniper, for Chip, for Buckets, and of course, we can't forget our producer behind the screen, on the ones and twos. That's Jake the Snake. My name is Sia Nejad, otherwise known as the Counselor. We rest our case.